Good morning, gun nuts. It's Nathan from the Reloading Room, coming to you with our 5th installment of our Hery 45 Colt 50-yard hunting load development series. This video is going to be a little bit shorter than I intended. We went to the range today to do some testing for velocities and for accuracy, and unfortunately we had a camera malfunction and that footage has been lost. Not to worry too much. I mean, hey, it was windy, so you probably would have gotten a lot of wind noise, which is probably more annoying than it's worth. But we can sit down here, we can go over the results, what we found, and then talk about what our next steps are going to be. Alright, so the first step when we went to the range was shoot our AA number 7 loads. We did that in part because we wanted to get these speeds done and get it with a clean barrel, but also because we wanted to sight in the scope that I just put on the Hery. As you can see, the 14 grain loads did really well. We have 1230, 1235, 1231, and 1244. That gave us an average of 1235, a standard deviation of 6.4, and a spread of only 14. So that's really promising. Next we have the 14.5 load, 1277, 1304, 1286, 1319, 1281, for an average of 1293, a standard deviation of 17.6, and a spread of 42. Not quite as good. I don't know why. I mean, you would think sometimes that's acceptable or sometimes that's normal. However, at 14.7, we have 1346, 1342, 1345, 1354 for an average of 1346, a standard deviation of 5.1, and a spread of 12. So why it went from 6.4 to 17.6 to 5.1 within 0.7 grains, I'm not quite sure. I loaded everything the same, but I think from what I'm seeing right here, the load that I would like to try is 14.2 grains of AA number 7 and try that for accuracy. Maybe go a little bit up, maybe a little bit down. I did shoot some of the 14s for accuracy, and it didn't do all that well, but it's hard to tell because I was trying to sight in the scope, so I was moving the scope around quite a bit while I was shooting. So I'd like to try some 14s, maybe on up to 14.5. This 14.7 is a little too hot. Even though I got really good standard deviations, it's just too hot for what we're trying to do. We're trying to stay under 1300, really right around 1250. Alright, so the next step, the next thing we went through was shooting for accuracy. Alright, you see here, this was one group right here. This is all 21.5. And then I'd made a scope adjustment, and then 21.5, and then 21.5. So all in all, this 21.5 load doesn't do too bad. Seems to stay within, close to about an inch, maybe inch and a half. So that's really promising. Especially considering the 21.5 grains gave us 1286, which is a speed we were really trying to shoot for. Further down here, we've got our 22 grain load. Now this is going a little bit further. You know, this is looking a little bit more like inch and a half group territory. But you got to remember that the scope and stuff isn't exactly the best, and given the circumstances, this might have been just fine. And that's definitely a minute of deer, any way you cut it. Then we have this 22 grain load. Okay, I strung quite a bit right here. Now that could very well be me trying to line up. The way that the reticle works in that scope, it covers up almost all this, so you're trying to balance that box evenly on the top and bottom, and it can be quite difficult. Now down the center it's fine, but on the smaller targets it's a little bit more difficult to get a good call. And then I have these two flyers off to the left here. So this is my largest group for sure. Then the 22 grains, then the 21.5. So that puts us right where we're wanting to be as far as speeds go for 42.27. 21.5 was 12.40, 22 was 12.55. So I think what I'm going to do is go between this 21.5 and this 22 grain. So maybe do some 21.5s, 22.7s, and some 22s. So I think that's what we're going to do, guys, for our next setup, is we're going to run some 14s, some 14 2s, and 14 5s. Then we'll also run some 21.5, 21.7, and 22s for 42-27. And we're going to load up like 100 rounds, so we have plenty of ammo for testing, and we can really get down and find out exactly what it's going to do. And as you can see by this top one, I was finally starting to get the scope really kind of narrowed in. But it did take me a while. I don't know what the click measurement is for that scope. It's a really old, janky scope, but it works to some degree. Well, alright guys, I think that's going to do it for today's video, and this is really short. I do apologize, but sometimes that's the way the cookie crumbles. Sometimes you eat the bear, sometimes the bear eats you. Alright, so until we go ahead and load these up, and I see you next week, stay safe, have fun. I'll see you when I see you. Laters.